You find your why as you learn more about yourself. Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to ep35. Hey, everyone. Good evening. Hey, guys. As you can see, there's another background. There's a new background because I am finally home in my home office. So if you guys started following me, well, not following, but attending the ep-shadowing sessions back in November, December, then you remember this white chair. But yeah, so I'm back. So I'm on my desktop. So no more crazy funky laptop. And I'm gonna get a new laptop anyway. All right, we're gonna jump right into the session. Okay, so today is another emergency medicine session with myself. Next week we're gonna have a guest. We're gonna get back to having guests. Next week is gonna be asthma and allergy. Hopefully, she's able to come. She's scheduled to come. So hopefully she does. It's an asthma allergy session, which is going to be exciting as usual. All the sessions are. Alrighty, so we're gonna hop into Q&A and then emergency medicine. And this time I'm gonna do more of a like testing you guys on what you've learned so far on all the things that I taught, like the fundamentals of the ER. So we're gonna see how much you've learned because I've been doing I haven't had a guest in a while, so a lot of these past few sessions have been emergency medicine. And if you've been tuning in, then you know that my PowerPoints have a theme and that always start off with like, pearls of the ER. So it's gonna be focused around those pearls and just testing your knowledge or how well you tuned in, I guess. Alrighty, so any questions that we have? Anything related to PA? Any general questions? Nothing specific to your journey. And also, I just want to let you know if you've emailed me the past few days or even last week and I haven't gotten back to you, please give me some time. I literally had to work like 10 days with 1 day off. I had to work 7 days in a row and have 1 day off and then complete my last 3 days in New York. So I haven't had time to do much of anything. And then if you're still waiting on a personal statement review from May, I'm getting to those. I've only been able to do like 2 at a time the past few weeks. So I'm going to try to finish them this week, I promise you. How can we document verify the hours from these virtual sessions? Everything is on the website, eshadowing.com, guys. You have to request a certificate. Are there other specialties that interest you? I also do urgent care. I'm not sure if you guys know, I'm also an urgent care PA. I do urgent care as needed. As far as an urgent care is still under the realm of like emergency medicine, it's more considered like fast track. In the ER, you'd see lesser acuity patients. So you would see like the level fours, fives. So if you think of urgent care, would be like the ER 4 or 5s. So like a lot of upper respiratory infection type patients, a lot of like sprains and strains and some fractures, a lot of some procedures like abscesses, lacerations, non-complicated or uncomplicated lacerations, a lot of like mild stuff like mild abdominal pain where they don't look too dehydrated or they're not vomiting much or you don't think it's appendicitis or anything emergent. And yeah, a lot of the urgent care, especially during cold and flu season, is like flus and upper respiratory flu, um, strep, tonsillitis, making sure it's not a pneumonia, bronchitis. You'll see UTIs, uncomplicated UTIs. Right. What is a good amount of hours you should apply to PA school for shadowing and community service? I don't really have an answer to that. I'll send you. I'll actually after this session is over, I'll actually post on my story profile of PA students I got accepted in 2019, I believe it was. This is coming from the PA platform. She's a mentor and she has a big platform that helps PA students. So her Instagram, and she posted the profile of students that got accepted based on their GPAs, their volunteer hours, shadowing hours. I think for volunteer and shadowing, I don't think there's like a set number, but just what I forgot how many volunteer hours I had. I mean, it was at least 100 or over 100. And then for shadowing, I know for sure I have 60. I just made it sure to have at least over 50, and I had 60. But it's a lot more competitive now, so I wouldn't even say that. On her page, she had like those students had a lot, like hundreds. I wouldn't say, don't let that discourage you, make you think that you need hundreds of hours to get accepted. But just look at the average and kind of aim for that. So I think that was the average though. But I know it's even harder to get shadowing hours, so don't put so much strain on that. If you can't, then just make sure you have more of something else, like more patient care experience. So, or that your GPA is really good. If you can't get a lot of volunteer hours or a lot of shadowing hours, but I will post that post on my story this evening. Are gap years unattractive? I don't think they're unattractive. I wouldn't think that a PA school would be turned off by that. I don't think there's anything wrong with gap years if you need time to get things together, especially if you found out about the PA profession later in your school career or just in life, and you need to get your prereqs and everything situated. Okay, do that. Do what you need to do. That's what they're for. You need time to do all that so you can get in. There's always a quiz. There's always a quiz. No, I don't think they're turned off by you retaking the class. I think it shows that you are persistent and you're resilient, and you just go after the goal, and you have self-awareness and know what you need to work on and work towards that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with retaking any classes. If you failed a class, if you dropped a class, whatever it is, nothing wrong. I actually didn't post about e-shadowing today. I figured that I was really, really tired. I got off work at 7. I had a flight at 10. Um, so from work, I went to my hotel, picked up my stuff, and then went right to the airport, and then landed here at like 12 something. And then as soon as I got here, tried to go through some mail, and I fell asleep. We're here. But I didn't fall asleep till like 3. Okay, but any other questions, guys? So I guess that's why probably thought there was no e-shadow because I didn't post about it. But I figured that you guys know because it's every Monday. But alrighty. Unless I post that there's no e-shadowing, then there is e-shadowing. When we get days of e-shadow without it being the official one. E-shadowing is every Monday. So I was just so exhausted that I didn't think to really post. Okay. Do most schools look at your application holistically? I believe so. I would think so. I would think that they look at you as just overall the type of person you are. And I think a lot of schools focus on the essay. Well, to me, that's what it seems like. A lot of schools focus on the essay to learn about who you are. So I mean, your stats are going to tell us, okay, that yeah, this person can achieve academically. But the most important thing is, who are you as a person? You could be really well in the brains department, but what about your heart? What about your how you interact with people, your social skills, your ability to take criticism, all these things. So I think that the essay tells a lot about your personality, and so that's very, very important. I think I always stress the importance of the essay. So please do well in your essay. Okay, what was the hardest part about PA school? The hardest part about PA school, to me, in my opinion, um, it wasn't. I mean, it was early on. It was adjusting to the exams and the grades and learning a certain way, because I was just kind of used to learning. I procrastinate, and I would study for tests last minute, and I didn't do that well my first semester. My first semester was actually my worst semester. I got a bunch of B's, and then after that, I got a bunch of A's. But I just had to change my studying. I ended up, doing Quizlets. I ended up studying like crazy almost every night, and then just develop a study technique that worked for me. That's a really, really important thing that you have to do, and you'll figure that out after your first semester. Maybe, hopefully, you do your first semester, figure out a good study technique, but it'll probably be after like a trial and error. So you'll eventually figure out what works for you. So that's what I had to overcome. That the first few months of PA school, and it was reflected in my grades. And then I took anatomy physiology our first semester. But yeah, and then besides grades, it was just having to adjust. PA school, my program wasn't that diverse. So there weren't, many people that looked like me. So I had to adjust to that, getting used to that. And I was in a predominantly, the area that I went to PA school was predominantly Caucasian area. And then like the area where I did rotations was, and I, faced some things while like on rotations, but I got over them. But I just definitely hope that programs become more diverse with Black and Brown people, because there's a lot of us out there, and so students wouldn't especially have to feel left out, or kind of feel like they don't belong. I don't know. I kind of went through that. That's just me being vulnerable with you guys, but yes. Is RN to PA a good path? That's a great path. Actually, per what one of the PA school's administrators, he said nursing is one of the best ways to get hands-on experience before a PA school. He actually said nursing is the best way, because that's like, I mean, that's the next best thing to a medical provider, being a nurse, because you work so closely with medical providers. But of course, that's not many students will already have a nursing degree or a nursing license, because a lot of you guys are young when you apply to PA school. So yes, the nurses are typically non-traditional students. It's just, I was just a nurse because I did it since high school, and it was kind of not something that most students do, or most students are able to do or have the opportunity. I went to Magnet High School that allowed me to get my nursing license. Ooh, okay, the questions are coming in. Before ER, what did you do as a PA? Before ER, I did a lot of random things. Okay, so I graduated August 2019. No, I graduated August 2016. I passed my boards like 2 weeks later. So I graduated August 19th. I took my boards August 31st. I took my boards the exact same day that I submitted my application. It was like a full circle moment. Yeah, I took it the exact same day, or yeah, August 31st, that I submitted my PA school application. And then I found out a week later that I passed the PANCE. And it was, that week was like probably the most like stressful week of my life, like, because I put so much stress on myself, and I had palpitations every single day. Like, I would wake up, cry, I would think that I didn't pass, I would like contemplate all these different things, I would just overthink, like, man, if I was going to be placed for a psych eval, it would have been at that moment, guys, because I was going crazy after taking that test. Like, I was so out of it. I couldn't sleep. I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, if I fail, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to look like this. I'm going to be the first student in my class to fail. Like, that week, and I kept like Googling ways to find out how, if you passed or not, like tricks and stuff to go on the system to see, oh, how do you find out if you passed? I mean, I ended up passing, but that week was terrible. Man, was that a bad week, like just psychologically. That was not a good week. But that'll happen to you when you want something really bad, and you're just sitting there waiting, and that waiting period, man. So, but that just okay. So it passed, and then so like I found out I passed September 7th, like a week later. So literally a week later, September 7th. I believe it was a Friday. It was like an amazing day. So I found out I passed, and then I started looking for a job like the next. Yeah, I was kind of looking for jobs, but I wasn't like that. I wasn't really looking during rotations. I wasn't asking because I didn't want to stay in that area. I wanted to go back to South Florida, and then I did one of my last two rotations in South. No, I did one rotation in my second to last rotation. No, my third to last rotation, and I went back home to do my last rotation, which was the ER in South Florida. but they weren't hiring. So I was just like had to look for a job eventually, and I like applied to all these ERs. And the bad thing is that a lot of the ERs in South Florida are run by the same hospital system, and they have the same rules. Like HCA, I don't know if you guys know about HCA. They own like the majority of the hospitals in South Florida, and they want you to have at least 1 year's experience. So if you don't have that 1 year's experience, you can't apply to any of their hospitals. So I was very limited, and like I said, I wanted to be in the ER. So I tried to apply to some other hospitals, some private hospitals. Of course, they have similar rules. And then I found an urgent care job, and it was like the weirdest job ever. Like it wasn't even ran, or I mean, it wasn't owned by a doctor. It was owned by like a restaurateur, and he decided to open an urgent care. Then you can open up any practice, I guess, urgent care, as long as you have a medical director. And then so I was the PA in the urgent care, and I was by myself. Well, at first I wasn't, but then eventually I wasn't. I was like, the good thing is that it was not busy, because I was just like, ugh. Like as a new grad, like Googling, not Googling, but going on up to date, going on Hippocrates. Like I was so nervous. But the good thing is that it was not busy at all. But then he didn't get to do a good job with like advertising for the urgent care, and it was a really really nice urgent care too. It was in a really nice area um, in Boca, that's South Florida. And so it ended up closing. But the medical director liked me, and he wanted to continue working with me. And then he had his own practice. He saw like some like addiction medicine and some primary care type stuff. So I went on to work with him doing some addiction medicine. So treating patients that have addictions, going to like outpatient treatment facilities, like going to different treatment facilities in the area. And so I did that for like 9 months. And I was just still like, while doing that, still looking for ER jobs. But at that point, I was looking out of state. And then I eventually, this was during a hurricane, I eventually found a job in Georgia, like middle Georgia, that would take like students that, not students, that would take people that didn't have, that took, accepted people that didn't have any ER experience. So that's how I ended up in the ER, random job, until I got where I got. And luckily, they just wanted 1 year of experience as a PA, which I had by that time. That was a long answer. Will PA schools take the highest grade if you retake the class, or will they take I think they take the highest grade, but I mean, everything is still calculated into your CASPA GPA. So they'll see that. PA schools will see that you took that class, but I think for CASPA, it just like calculates just adds it into your GPA. What are the standardized tests that PA programs require? I believe GRE, and then there's some other tests. Yes, proof of attending is through a certificate. If you have any questions regarding actual e-shadowing, everything is on eshadowing.com. So I'm going to bypass some of those questions. Do you recommend shadowing multiple PAs in different specialties, or sticking with just one PA or two for many weeks? Whatever you want. There's no right or wrong answer to that. Whatever you want. I mean, you can form relationships with multiple PAs, with just one PA, whatever floats your boat. You can shadow one PA at a time, then go to another PA, whatever floats your boat, your time constraint. If you don't have much time, then I recommend trying to get at least one PA. I mean, it's hard enough to get one. If you can get more than one, great. But just focus on getting one if you don't have much time between applying and getting your hours. Did you always know that you wanted to work in the ER or be a PA? Do most students in the PA come in and knowing which field they want to pursue? I feel like a lot of students do come in thinking they want to do a certain field, but then things are completely different when you're actually doing that field. It's one thing to like shadow in a field or kind of gets a little bit of experience, or think or like be a patient in a field. Like say you have diabetes and you see an endocrinologist, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be an endocrinology PA. It's one thing to be a patient and like see an endocrinology PA at work, but it's another to like actually be an endocrinology PA and be in the background and actually know everything that you have to do, like that behind the scenes of that patient care. So that was the thing with like OBGYN. I thought it was, because that's what I wanted to do before actually going to PA school. I thought it was, so cute, mother and baby. And, I'm all for women's health. I'm also all for preventative care. And then so I went into it, and it was just like, okay, this is how we're doing every day. We're doing the same thing every day. And it was just kind of boring to me. It's great, but for my personality, as you can see, I'm very bubbly. I'm very like, so, so I like, to be on my feet. I like doing different things, seeing different things. I like adventure. I like excitement. I like, yeah. What helped motivate you most during hard classes? During hard classes, what motivated me the most? I don't know. I felt like everything was kind of the class that I struggled with the most was I didn't like ethics because it was like a bunch of legal stuff and it was boring to read. So I just kind of thought that, I just got to pass this class. I just got to pass it. Like, and then I'd be like, is this really important? Like, it's either you got it or you don't. It's either you're ethical or you're not. I didn't really like ethics. And then I didn't like with pathophysiology, I had a hard time learning like the upper motor neurons and the lower motor neurons and when they, and the, what you call it, when they cross and then how things the left becomes the right and the right. I'm not good at neuro. Um, but all the classes that I didn't like or topics that I didn't like, I was just like, I just gotta thug it out and do what I gotta do. And that's the good thing about the ER too. Like you know a little bit about everything, but you don't know like the specifics of everything. So I could tell you a little bit about OB, a little bit about neuro, a little bit about this, a little bit about that. But if you want to ask me deep, I just know the surface of everything. Do you have to apply for the school after getting accepted? I think so. I don't remember. Emergency care techs like PCAs, CNAs, yeah, those are great ways to get experience. Did you have any classmates that had families? Did they struggle more than students without families, kids? Absolutely not. Yeah, actually, I'm good friends with one of my classmates. She has families. She actually just had a baby. Um, I'm actually trying to get her to come on. She's a urology PA, but she just had a baby, as I said, so she's really busy. So yeah, she actually did really well. Of course, she had a husband that really helped her, was very supportive and helpful. So to people that have families, the biggest thing is to make sure that you have a village, make sure that you have a support system that can help you. If you have kids, make sure that you're arranged for daycare or set up, people that can watch them. Of course, you're not going to be able to spend much time with your kids, but if you're make time for them, that's also going to be an outlet, a way to relieve stress as well. But your support system is so important if you do have a family while in PA school. What are some good ways to manage stress while during PA school? I think that varies by person. My way of managing stress is different. Do what works for you. Because me, I like my sleep. Um, I like my sleep. I like to go out. I like night out in the town. I like getting pretty. Like if I like look and I get my hair done, I get my nails done, I get makeup, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. So that's how what I like. So what I like is different from what you like. So I mean, there's general ways to manage stress, like listening to music, exercising. I love to work out. I don't know if that really shows, but if you've been following me from way back in October, November, you would see that like I had like a workout routine before I went to New York. So working out was like big for me. Let's see, listening to music, just having a good support system, friends, but really based on your personality. Okay, if you don't get in, for people that don't get accepted to PA school, I have different advice for them. Because someone asked if someone doesn't get in, what do you recommend during the next time before applying for the next cycle? It really depends at what point did you not get in. Did you not get in right away, like flat out rejection, or did you get waitlisted, or did you get rejected after interviewing? If you got rejected after interviewing, typically I say that it's probably something that went wrong with the interview, or them having to decide based on your interview. I think your interview was the bulk of what you need to work on, because of course they like you enough to invite you, right? They like you enough to meet you. You made it past that first round. So what happened in that second round? or yeah, I think it really that second round of you interviewing it. So I don't think it was much so your stats. So if you make it to the interview, I think okay, yeah, your stats are great, your GPA is great, your hours are great, blah blah. Maybe if you apply again, you can work on them a little bit. But what you really need to work on is where you could have fallen short with the interview. So at that point, if you made it to an interview and you get waitlisted or you get rejected right out without a waitlist, then work on your interview skills, work on your presentation, work on, whatever you might have fallen short on that day. And if you don't know, then like retrack it. Think about like when you went to interview, the moment you walked in, what you had on, how you talked, blah, 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 blah. You probably won't even remember that. But just do things differently. And you can even watch, YouTube. I'm sure there's a lot of different resources to master the interview. Don't read too much into it as far as answering the questions. It's more so about being comfortable with answering questions, like feeling relaxed and being ready to, not like thinking like or having a list of the type of questions they'll ask you. Yeah, you want to know the type of questions, but you want to also be relaxed so you can answer the questions and be comfortable. So yes. And then if you got rejected, straight out rejected, it's probably your stats. Is it too late to take the GRE? If you've been studying for the GRE, then it's not too late. If you haven't been studying for the GRE, then it's probably too late. When schools ask for grades, when you put your highest for all the classes, including the ones you retook, you should put everything. When CASPA asks for your grades, you put everything. All right, I'm not reading personal questions. If you have personal questions, then email me. I'll put my email, I'll put my Instagram. All right, and I'm going to answer a few more questions, then go into the ER review. Do you have exams after every lecture in PA school? Basically, every lecture is focused on an exam. You don't have an exam right away, like the next day, but you have an exam like 3 days later or something. Yes, somebody said the word. I don't even know how to pronounce that word anymore. How did you find your why? Why did you want to be a PA? How did I find my why? You find your why as you learn more about yourself. I think so much of just your career, your life is who you are. So what do you want out of your life? It's not like, because I mean, medicine is medicine. It's going to be hard. You're going to have the brains. Everybody in the medical field is smart. No matter what you do, if you're in the medical field, I feel like you're smart. So it's not so much focused on grades and stuff and doing well, or I mean, finances, sure, but it's really on who you are. Like once you get to learning more about who you are, what you want out of life, what's important to you, what makes you happy, like that's gonna be your why. Your why is gonna be revolved around that, and your why for being a PA is gonna be revolved around that. So take some time out. And then the thing is, if you're a freshman in college and stuff, I always like don't worry so much about like stressing out about doing not doing well, but yeah, of course you want to do well, but figuring out what you want to be. Don't worry so much. It's going to come to you. It really is. I didn't know any of that when I was a freshman. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to be until my senior year. And it's all going to come to you. You're going to have that moment where you're like, okay, yeah, and that's the point of going to school. You're trial and error. Like I said, you're just learning about yourself, learning about what you want from life, the life you want to live, the type of life you want to live. Think about that. Are kids really important to you? Do you want to have time for your kids? Or do you have kids already and you want to give them a good life? Is your independence important to you? Is vacationing important to you? Is the work-life balance important to you? You're going to figure all that out as you learn about who you are. And when you're young, when you're 19, 20, you probably don't even know a thing about who you are. It's when you reach like 22, 23, 24, you're early to mid 20s, that's when you start learning about, okay, this is who Rodeline is. This is what she likes. This is what she doesn't like. And I mean, life is all about going through like different evolutions and phases. So the person I am right now, I wasn't even that person 6 months ago before doing this whole New York thing. Like that completely changed me as well. So you're going to just have different moments. So really take this time. I mean, you can even write it out. Write out things you love. Write out what you want from your life. Write out your goals, not career goals specifically, but goals overall, everything you want in life. Do you want to retire at 60? Do you want to retire at 55? Do you want to make a certain amount of money? Do you want to be able to vacation? Like, write all those down. That's going to really help you learn about your body. I hope that was good. Can you be on call as a PA? Yes. Okay, someone asked about my personal statement. If you email me, I will send you my personal statement. CASPA is the portal for to submit everything related to PA school. Not every PA school has works with CASPA. CASPA is the application portal that apply to PA school. Someone asked what CASPA is. As I said, not every PA school works with CASPA. You have to find out whether the school you're interested, schools you're interested in, is on CASPA. How do you deal with difficult colleagues slash patients? I had a lot of that. I've experienced a lot of that in my life, but I think a lot of the things that I experienced in New York, I did because I was working so much. So for most of my PA career, I was in the ER. I was working like 3, 4 days a week, but here I was working like 7 days a week. So I was always there. So there were like hype, my emotions were on 10, my anxiety was on 10, because it just, I just felt like I was never leaving. I felt like I was never escaping, but then I was just like, keep your eyes on the prize. You're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. And so I had to just keep thinking that, because like by day 4 or 5, you're just like, think of like doing 12 hours somewhere every single day. Like I just did 7 days in a row, 12 hours. So I would work, get home, get home around 8 a.m., fall asleep around 10, 11, sleep for hours, wake up at 6 p.m., having to do it all over again for 7 days in a row, doing the same thing all over. That takes a toll on your mind. So I got irritated a lot. And that'll happen. So I say like a lot of things that happens just because like I was there so much. So that's why I say like relieving stress and doing different things is important when you work, especially if you plan on working a lot to pay off loans or whatever your reason for working a lot is. So yeah, I had difficult colleagues and patients, but I mean colleagues wasn't. I mean patients. You're gonna have difficult patients. You're gonna have a lot of difficult patients. I just think that I just don't let it get to me. I've mastered the art of ignoring. I think I have. And then when patients think like patients, and I work with a lot of psychiatric patients, and I just kind of I don't know. I don't even know how let me see what happened. Like this past Sunday or Saturday, I had a patient that was like that think that I didn't do anything for him. I just had to explain to him everything I did, and he cursed me out, and then he apologized. But I don't know. I just don't let it get to me. When it happens to you enough, you just kind of become numb to it. At first, I would cry. Like when I first started off, even in rotations, I would cry. But now I don't take anything personal. You just can't take a lot of things. Yeah, I think I get more affected by colleagues than patients, because patients don't really know any better. But colleagues is different. Than colleagues, it's important because you're supposed to be working as a team. So if there's that disconnect, it affects a lot of things. So I can't really say much about how I handle it. I'm just kidding. How long does it take to pay off loans for PA school typically? I think typically it takes 5 to 10 years. Um, so I think that I'm not gonna say the average. I had 80,000, 85,000. When I started in New York, I was down to 66,000, and that was after like 3.5, 4 years. Yeah, 2016, 2024 years. Um, I was able to pay it off, but that was only because I went to New York and I was working like a slave. So, I was able to pay my loans off after like 4 months, 3, 4 months of working. It's that 66,000 balance. But if I never went to New York, it would have probably taken me. And my goal was to pay it off in 5 years. But I was doing other things, but it would have taken me maybe 7 years, I think. But some people do it earlier. Some people work crazy and paid off by 5 years, 4 years. I think one of my friends paid hers off within like 3 years. But I think the average is 10. Some people don't care. And that's what I say also, like what's important to you, what matters to you. If loans matter to you, if you want to pay it off, knock them out, you're going to work like crazy to get it out the way. If they don't, you're just not going to care. You're just not going to pay them off. All right, so I'm going to move on to the ER. Have you ever had an MD question or clinical knowledge? Kind of. When I started working with this doctor in New York, he was intimidated. He does, and I realized he does that to like all the new people. But he actually made me cry because he was very intimidating for no reason. He was questioning me. He was like, "Well, why are you doing this or that?" And I figured out that he just does that. He's just like that. And some of the things that and then like I don't like it. I don't like being put on the spot, even though I know it. Like I freeze and I don't like answering it. So he did that, and some of the things that he was saying didn't even make sense to me. But the crazy thing is that he made me cry, and I hated him when I started, and now him and I are like this. Him and I are like really cool, and we just laugh all throughout the shift. Like we're like the same height too, so we're like thing one and thing two. But I be telling him about himself. Okay, when you're not scared to tell a doctor about themselves, that's when you know that you're cool with the doctor. I be telling him about himself. Like you need a Alrighty. Yeah, and working in New York, I really, got my voice. I learned to, let people, tell people, I'm not going to be the one that you're going to talk to any type of way. You're going to just, like, I'm very nice, but you're not going to take advantage of me. So you'll learn how to kindly, talk to people. I wasn't so kind sometimes, but okay. Alrighty. When accepted, how much do you think you should save for random costs? That's a tough question. I was not good at saving as a child. Yes, I was in my 20s and I thought I was a child. So I don't know how to. I would look that up, and it's based on your expenses. Maybe like 30%. All right. So the ER. Anybody want to come on to talk these last 15 or to answer questions these last 15 minutes of the ER? Or I guess you guys can answer them in the answer box. Hopefully, someone really knows them. All right, so for the ER, can you guys tell me what's the most important thing that I say to remember when working in the ER? What is the most important thing that I say that I always, always, always say, if anything, to remember to know when you're working with in the emergency setting? It's really easy. It's 2 words. What's the most important thing that I say? Anybody know this question? Yes, you guys are the best. Yes. Yes. Awesome. Yes. Worst first. Yes. I'm so happy that you guys know this. Yes. If you want to get into the ER and you know this now, you're going to do amazing in the ER. So all you have to know now are all emergent conditions. So now that you know words first, anybody that wants to get into the ER, once you go into PA school and you go into the emergency medicine section, all you have to know are all emergent conditions, and then you remember it. So words first, you're gonna excel in the ER. So yes, in the emergency room, you always want to think words first. What is going to kill your patient? And that will help determine your disposition. Okay, the disposition is what happens to the patient. Is the patient going to be admitted? Is the patient going to be transferred to another hospital? Is the patient going to be discharged? Is it going to be a safe discharge? And I learned about that in New York because we work with with a psychiatric population, and then we work with a lot of patients that don't have like their social and family is just like bad. I don't know. A lot of patients don't have family. A lot of them, are handicapped or can't do for themselves, and we have to figure out, okay, where's this patient gonna go? Like, how do we get them out? Like, so our ER interacted more with social work in New York than I have ever in any other ER that I've ever worked at. I've never really had to focus so much on, how is the patient going to get home safely? And I learned that working in New York because a lot, like as I said, a lot of these patients were mentally ill. A lot of them lived in shelters. A lot of them didn't have family. A lot of them lived alone or were handicapped and lived alone. So a lot of them were elderly and were found on the streets, and we had to, like, if we couldn't find the family, we had to get social work involved to place them in a nursing home. We had to determine whether they had decision-making capacity. There was a lot that went into it. So always think about if they do get discharged, that they're a safe discharge as well. So, I mean, you won't have in a regular hospitals, I would say, I guess if it's not like a mental health hospital or just the patient population, that you may not have to think about that. But like I said, where I worked, you had to. So worst first, what is going to kill this patient? And how will you know, or how can you roll out worst first? what are the ways to, make sure that the worst possible thing is not going on? What's going to help you know this? So what's going to help you know if it's worse first? Or, I mean, what's going to help you know worse first, or determine all of this? Okay, somebody said OPPQRSTA, vitals. Okay, yes. Their problem, their vitals. Okay, okay. A, B, C, D, E. That's more for like trauma. I mean, that's for anything, but labs. Okay. Alrighty. So, I mean, you guys are all saying great answers, and it's basically all of that and more. So it's going to be from from the moment they present to the moment they, you start getting things back to the moment where you have to think of the disposition. So their vitals is going to be one of the first things that you see. Before you even see the patient, you're going to have their vitals. You're going to have their vitals. A lot of times I wouldn't even see a patient if I don't know what their vitals are, because I don't know if I can see them, if I would feel comfortable enough seeing them, because sometimes, I would feel more comfortable if the doctor saw them. Like, say the patient had an oxygen saturation of like 85%. Okay, that patient may need to be on a BiPAP, or they may need to be intubated or something. I don't know how stable they are. So their vitals is going to be one of the first ways of telling you how stable or unstable that patient is. That also goes along with the worst first. So you're always going to be thinking about stable versus unstable. And as I said, vitals is going to be one thing. Yes, somebody said vitals, appearance, lab history. Yes, all of those things are going to tell you what's ruling out the worst things, and if that patient can go home or if they're going to need to stay in the ER. So, and I think a lot of people don't talk about this. They just kind of go into talking about like the medicine and like cases and stuff. Well, you need to like be thinking about this. This is all about, all of those will help you determine what is going on with the patient too. Before you even learn the medicine, you have to learn about what's, all the things that go into it. So vitals, you're going to do all that. Then you're going to what I also like to do is, once I get the patient assigned to me, is look over their past history. I look at their past medical history. Typically that'll be in the chart. So if I see they got all these things going on, say for instance they're on a blood thinner and they come in after a fall and they're 75 years old, what you gonna be thinking? What would you want to think then? So that's why looking at their history is important, or even asking their history is important. So say that, you get this patient, their vitals are normal, but they're 75 years old, they fell, and they're on like Eliquis or warfarin, Coumadin. That's a blood thinner. What are you going to be thinking? Exactly. They could have a bleed. So that's why those things are so important. So then you're going to be thinking, oh, the worst possible thing could be a bleed or a fracture or something. So that's why. So, and if they are on a blood thinner and they fell, they had some type of trauma, you want to rule out bleed. So that's why all those things are important. So before you even learn the medicine, you're going to learn all of this, and that helps you to learn the medicine. So yes, whoever said bleed, great, perfect. Yes, blood loss, yes. Okay. So yeah, that was just an example. So you're gonna, look at their past medical history. That's gonna give you an idea of the type of patient you're working with, and then you're gonna go to the patient. Before you even start talking to the patient, you're gonna see how that patient looks. You're gonna get objective findings to help with the subjective. So does the patient look really sick? Even though the patient's vitals could be great, but do they look unwell? That could, do they look really pale? Are they breathing heavily? Those are all things that's going to help you rule out the worst things that could be going on as well. And then subjective, what they're telling you, the history that you take, the physical that you do, that's objective, and that's all going to go into everything that you write. And then so you're going to see the patient, to do a history, do a physical, focused. Focused means honing in on the problem that you think is going on. So if they complain of shortness of breath, you ain't going to be testing all the reflexes. You're not going to be testing all the reflexes. You're not going to do a whole comprehensive neuro exam if they're complaining of shortness of breath, okay? Or if they're complaining of chest pain. If they're complaining of chest pain, yeah, you want to do heart and lungs. But yeah, and then if they're complaining of shortness of breath, it may be because they have ascites. Ascites is fluid buildup. So the ascites in the belly. So it may be because of that that's pushing on their lungs and causing that shortness of breath. So you don't figure all that out, but that's all from looking at the patient. You see that they got a big old belly. You see that they're struggling to breathe. Okay, and another thing is me. I like solving puzzles. I love puzzles as a kid. I like problem solving. So that's all medicine is. Medicine is like a lot of problem solving. But in the ER, you got to do it within a certain amount of time. So it put the fun into it. Like, oh my gosh, I got to figure this out within like 4 or 5 hours. So it makes it a little fun. So I don't know. Y'all are probably laughing at me right now. Okay, so yeah. So worst first, you do all that, you see the patient, your history, physical, a lot of times the physical could be completely normal, and then you go order labs and tests, and then crazy things start coming back. So those all help you determine worst first. So when you ask the history, you're gonna ask certain questions tailored towards worst first, because you're not gonna want to order shotgun labs. You're not going to want to order every single thing. If you think a patient can have a PE, you don't have to always order a D-dimer, or you don't have to always order, what else? Or you don't have to always go and order a CAT scan of the chest. You ask specific questions to make sure that's not what's going on as well. And if you do think that's what's going on, then yeah, you go and do labs for it or do imaging for it. But if you don't think so, if the patient comes in with shortness of breath and you ask certain questions about PE and they say no to all those questions, then you document that the patient says no. So, okay, boom, the patient says no, low risk, blah, blah, blah. You document low risk or low suspicion for this and that. And then you say, and then that means you don't have to do the lab test. Or typically it means that you don't. But if the patient says no and then they have their tachycardic, hypoxic, or whatever, and all their other stuff come back, okay, then you may have to. But your history is going to help you with your documentation. Documentation is everything. So doing all that is really going to help you so you don't order a bunch of labs or shotgun labs. And then you're going to be able to document that you did this when you assessed the patient. And that's why you didn't order this lab or didn't do this test, because the patient didn't present with that. So just as if a patient's presenting with abdominal pain, you're not going to order a chest X-ray unless it's indicated. So yes. Alrighty. So worst first, all of those will help determine the disposition. And then at a certain point, you're going to be talking to your attending physician about that patient. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It all depends on your level of comfort, what that attending wants from you. So whenever I start somewhere, I kind of ask the attending, do you want me to present every patient to you? Do you want me to just present certain patients? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? And they'll let you know. Some attendings want you to present every single patient to them. And if they're okay with it, they're okay. If they want more done, or if they want this and that, okay. Me, what I typically do is I'll see the patient, do what I gotta do, unless I have a question. But I'll see the patient, do what I gotta do, and then when tests start coming back, because typically I know what to order, I know what to do. It's just when things start coming back, and then trying to figure out what to do next. That's where sometimes I get lost, or I still get lost, even as with the experience I have. But yeah, I get lost. What next? Then I ask my attending. But some attendings want you to present to them after seeing the patient before you even order labs, which I think is kind of that takes away from the independence of me practicing and doing what I got to do. But yes, so then you do that, and then you can even work with your attending to determine the disposition. Most of the time, most patients will go home. I've only had a few times where I've admitted more patients than I've discharged, but yes. You always want to be thinking that, okay, this patient is going home and they're not going to die. I mean, they're going to die eventually, but they're not going to die because of something I did. So always be thinking like, okay, and then your documentation is going to reflect that. Your documentation is going to say, oh, I did this, this, and that. I have low suspicion for this, this, and that. The patient's stable. The vitals were this, this, and that at discharge. And another thing, if you go into ER, always, always, always make sure that your vitals are good. The discharge vitals. If you are ever involved in lawsuits, God forbid, they're always going to look at how the patient left the hospital. If you ain't taking no vitals or made sure that vitals were taken at discharge, no bueno. Or within like that I think they do them every 4 hours. So within that 4-hour window, then no bueno. So always try to make sure you do that. So a lot of times, nurses will forget or ask them, or sometimes I just go and do it myself. So I always make sure that their discharge vitals were stable, or if they're tacky when they leave, then I'll write something to justify that. So say they got a bunch of nebulizer treatments and they're a little tacky when they leave, I'll say that due to the effects of albuterol, patients was slightly tacky, but oxygen was this, our walk test was this, blah 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 blah. So always make sure you can justify something. Justify everything, every little thing. Remember the term CYA. CY, cover your booty, cover your tush, okay, in the ER, okay? Justify everything that you've done or that you do or that you choose not to do. But that's the fundamentals of the ER. That was just a quick. So I know you guys don't know the medicine yet, so I feel like, telling you guys these things, at least if you want to go into the ER, telling you guys these things, it really helps once you actually learn the medicine. Do you consult? Oh my gosh, I just remembered. I have a really, really good case study, and I was sleepy, so I didn't make a PowerPoint. But I have a really bomb case study because somebody just said, do you consult other medical teams when you decide to admit the patient, or how do you decide to become primary after they get admitted? Who becomes primary? That's a very good question. And that just made me think of a case that I had. It was a really good case. It was a GI bleed. I'm going to tell you guys about it. If our guest doesn't come on next week, then I'll do that one. But if they come on, then I'll do it the next week. And I'm gonna remember it too, because it was like a really good presentation and it really helps. Like, I learned a lot from it too. ER sounds fun and horrifying, but it is. But okay, so yes, you do consult with other medical teams. Okay, so for instance, this week I had a patient that had, this is I don't know, I just get so excited when I talk about the ER. Yes. Okay, so this is a patient that this is an example of consulting the medical team. So I had a patient, she came in and I thought she had a kidney stone. And it turns out that she did have a kidney stone. She had left flank pain, and it turns out she did have a kidney stone. It was obstructing. But the reason that it was obstructing, so I thought to call urology, but the reason that it was obstructing was because she had a mass on her ovary. She had a dermoid mass, and it was causing, hydronephrosis. It was causing, pressing on the bladder. So it was causing fluid to back up into the kidneys, and, things couldn't do what they had to do. So along with consulting urology, I had to consult GYN. And then we had to determine whether that patient was going to be, urology doesn't admit patients. Urology would be medicine. Medicine is the hospitalist that admits patients. But GYN can admit their patients. So, and you'll find out that you become the middleman. So you get, like, these people go back and forth. They don't want to admit, they don't want to do this. They think the patient should be admitted under medicine, but no, the patient needs to be admitted under gynecology. And they go like this. And you're just the middleman calling back and forth. Same thing with surgery. Same thing with, GI admits with the hospitalist, but surgery, GYN, I think that they admit their own patients. So the girl was actually a GYN admission because they were trying to say that it's the GYN was like, no, the kidney stone is the issue. She can have the mass removed at any time. But my attending was saying that no, the mass is the issue causing the problems with the kidney stone. So GYN, it's more of a primary GYN concern. So, and then the other attending was trying to tell GYN that, and then GYN finally was like, okay, yeah, whatever, we'll take the patient. So I think the patient ended up being admitted under GYN, and then urology saw the patient. So yeah, you're going to consult a lot of people. And then you're going to have to determine where the patient's going to be admitted. And sometimes the medicine team or hospitalists, they don't want to admit. They think that I should be admitted under surgery, whatever. But if you have problems, just call your medical director. If you have any issues, call your medical director. All right. Yes. Do you ever consult physical therapy? Not in the ER. I think physical therapy would be like more so once the patient gets admitted, because like say a patient has a stroke, you're not going to be thinking of physical therapy right then and there. You're going to be thinking of neurology. So once they get more stable, because remember, ER is like more unstable, stabilizing the patient first before doing anything else. So once the patient's stable and needs that rehab and other stuff, then physical therapy, they'll get that outpatient or inpatient treatment or whatever it is. I'm going to talk more about consulting next week. I was trying to think of a case, and I couldn't think of one. I was trying to think of what interesting things that happened. Like, how did I not remember this case? It was such a good case. I think you guys are really gonna learn from it. But I'll present it. Remind me too. I'll present it the next week. So just tell us about that GI bleed, or tell me ahead of time so I can make a case study. Yeah, okay. Somebody said, how many hours do you work a week? Girl, I just did, what was it? I worked like 72 hours, 12 times, wait, no. Yeah. No, 12 times 7 is 84. I just worked 84. Typically, I work like around 72 hours a week. That's not my real life. That was my New York life. Next week is going to be asthma. And then the week after that is going to be the GI one. Okay. Okay, yes. You guys, I just love, problem solving. So the ER is just really fun problem solving. And like, it's like a game too, like playing a game. What is it? Like a guessing game? I don't know. But it's fun. If anybody wants to get into the ER, if you have a passion for the ER, even while in PA school, if you find like that, oh, I love the ER, talk to me, And if you're in New York and you love the ER, yes, connecting the dots. Alrighty. I mean, but that's what medicine is. Like you're just that's why it's called practicing medicine. People don't think of it that way, but it's always like learning and trying to figure something out. It's just that, like I said, ER, you have a shorter time to do it. With other specialties, if a patient comes in with a mass, you refer them, then you do this and you do that, and you have time to do it. But in the ER, you don't have much time. You're within have to do within 4 or 5 hours of whatever them being there. So I hope you guys learned a lot today. Thank you. I hope you learned a lot. That's what I'm here for. I'm always wanting to teach you guys, especially the fundamentals. Before you learn the medicine, the basics. And that's what's gonna help you, excel, knowing the basics. Like if you know all the things that can kill you in the ER, but you don't know that, to rule them out, then what are you gonna do? All right. So at least by the time you guys start learning and start practicing, when you get to your rotations, you're gonna be so smart because you're gonna be remembering to do all this. So you're gonna learn all the things that can kill you, and then when you go talk to your patient, you're gonna remember to do all that, and your preceptor's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, you know so much," and you're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, thanks to Rodeline." All right, just kidding. All right, guys, I'm about to go take a nap. I'm about to go eat and take a nap. All right, I hope you guys have a great night. Feel free to email me, do whatever. You guys are awesome. You're going to do amazing. I can't wait to present the case study. I just love when you guys learn. Okay. Good night. Feel free to email me, DM, whatever you want, whatever you need. Okay. Peace. Bye, guys.